The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber reflected the light of 3 suns. Inside, 15 representatives from the most advanced civilizations in known space argued in voices that grew louder by the minute. The central display showed what had caused this emergency meeting: grainy footage of Earth's first faster-than-light battleship under construction. "Impossible," thundered Representative Gold, his metallic skin flashing under the lights. "They were launching chemical rockets just 70 years ago. They cannot have FTL technology already." The room fell silent as Intelligence Chief Blue stepped forward. Her holographic displays filled the chamber with technical data. "Our scans confirm it. The humans aren't just building an FTL ship. They're building something we've never seen before." The ship in the footage was massive, its dark hull gleaming with strange patterns that seemed to bend light around them. Construction drones swarmed around it like insects, adding layer upon layer of materials that shouldn't exist according to human technological records. "What truly concerns us," Blue continued, "is this." She zoomed in on what appeared to be the ship's engine section. "These aren't standard FTL drives. The energy readings are troubling." Representative Stone, oldest among them, leaned forward on his floating platform. "Explain." "The humans have somehow weaponized the FTL drive itself. The power readings suggest they could tear holes in space large enough to swallow entire fleets." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. The Council had maintained peace for 10,000 years by controlling FTL technology. Every species had to prove their worthiness, follow the proper development path, accept guidance. Humanity had done none of these things. "We must stop them," said Gold. "Their species is too young, too aggressive. Give them this power, and they'll spread across the galaxy like a virus." "They survived 3 world wars," Stone reminded them. "They pulled themselves back from the brink of nuclear destruction." "Perhaps." "Exactly," Gold interrupted. "They're violent, unpredictable. Look at their entertainment. Half of it involves alien invasions. They're paranoid, dangerous." Blue cleared her throat. "There's more. We've detected similar construction projects in their asteroid belt. This isn't just one ship. They're building a fleet." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives called for immediate military action. Others demanded sanctions. A few suggested peaceful contact. Stone raised his ancient hand, and silence fell. "We will follow protocol. Send them the standard warning. If they are truly ready for galactic civilization, they will respond appropriately." The Council voted. The motion passed. Within hours, their most powerful transmitter sent a message toward Earth in all known human languages. "Attention, humanity. Your unauthorized development of faster-than-light technology violates galactic law. Cease construction immediately or face sanctions. UAV-1 standard rotation to respond." They waited. Earth's communications satellites surely received the message. Their quantum monitors showed the transmission had been received and decoded. But Earth remained silent. Hours passed, then days. "They ignore us." Gold was furious. "This proves their unfitness." Stone watched the construction footage again, studying the strange battleship. Something about its design bothered him. It looked too advanced, too alien for a supposedly young civilization. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "they are not ignoring us at all. Perhaps this silence tells us something important about humanity." Blue nodded. "Their history shows they respond to threats by preparing, not talking. The more dangerous the threat, the quieter they become." The construction continued. The mysterious ship grew larger, and Earth's silence became deafening. In orbit around their blue world, humanity's first FTL battleship neared completion. Its hull absorbed light in impossible ways, its engines promised to break physics itself, and its very existence challenged everything the Council thought they knew about technological progress. Earth had not just ignored the Council's warning. They had judged it, found it wanting, and dismissed it entirely. And in that dismissal lay a message that terrified the Council more than any response could have. Humanity was not asking for permission. They were far beyond that point. Ambassador Gray stood at his observation post on Luna, Earth's moon, watching the massive human battleship through his quantum-enhanced vision. After 50 years as the Council's best diplomat, he had never seen anything quite like this. The ship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark shadow. Its hull seemed to drink in the sunlight, creating patches of darkness that shouldn't exist in space. Construction was nearly complete, and still, Earth had not responded to any Council messages. Most unusual, Gray muttered, making notes in his field journal. They must know we're watching. His sensors picked up another energy spike from the ship. These happened regularly now, each one stronger than the last. The humans were testing something, but what? A junior observer rushed into his dome. Ambassador, we've detected something in their archived data. You need to see this immediately. Gray followed the young observer to their hidden monitoring station. On the screens were old Earth transmissions, dating back 30 years. Pictures of small objects breaking physics in ways that should have been impossible. They've been testing FTL technology in secret, the junior observer said, voice shaking. Not for years, for decades. Gray leaned closer to the screen. Show me everything. The evidence was clear. While the Council watched Earth's space programs with their chemical rockets and basic ion engines, humanity had been conducting other experiments in secret. Deep in underground bases, in hidden facilities beneath the ocean, they had mastered FTL travel long before announcing it to the world. But why reveal themselves now? Gray wondered aloud. The answer came 3 hours later. Their sensors detected a massive energy buildup in the human ship. The entire vessel began to glow with a light that hurt to look at, even through filtered screens. Are they preparing to attack? The junior observer asked. Gray shook his head. No, this is a demonstration. The ship, which Earth had named Defiant, suddenly split the space around it into impossible geometries. It created a hole in reality itself, but not like any FTL drive Gray had ever seen. This was something new. Send this data to the Council immediately, Gray ordered. His hands shook as he wrote his report. The humans hadn't just mastered FTL travel. They had weaponized it. The Defiant could tear open space itself, creating rifts that could swallow enemy ships whole. Its drive system wasn't just for travel. It was the most powerful weapon Gray had ever seen. Ambassador, the junior observer called out. We're receiving a transmission. From Earth. Finally, after weeks of silence, a message appeared on their screens. It was short, but its meaning was clear. The Defiant is a prototype, one of many. Gray felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly sent another update to the Council, this one marked with the highest priority. Humanity's silence was not defiance. They were busy. While we watched and warned, they were building more ships. The Defiant is not a threat. It's a demonstration of capabilities they mastered long ago. We have gravely misunderstood their level of advancement. As if to prove his point, new sensor data began flooding in. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt became visible. Construction facilities on Mars lit up their sensors. Bases on several of Jupiter's moons showed energy signatures matching the Defiance. How did we miss this? The junior observer whispered. Gray watched as the Defiant performed another test, ripping a hole in space large enough to swallow a small moon. We missed it because we were looking for what we expected to see. Primitive humans playing with technology beyond their understanding. Instead, he left the thought unfinished. The truth was becoming clear. Humanity hadn't just caught up to Council technology. They had surpassed it in ways that defied explanation. In his final report that day, Gray wrote only one line. The humans weren't asking for permission to join galactic society. They were deciding if they wanted to join at all. The Defiant continued its tests, each one more impressive than the last. And somewhere in the vast shipyards of the asteroid belt, more ships were taking shape. Earth's silence had spoken volumes. Now, the Council would have to decide how to answer. The warrior fleet of the High Command, led by Commander Red, appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. 20 warships strong. Each vessel was the pride of Council space warfare technology. They had won 100 battles across the galaxy, enforcing the Council's will for centuries. Send the message, Commander Red ordered from his flagship's bridge. His red-scaled skin gleamed under the battle lights. The message was simple: disable your weapons and surrender your FTL technology, or we will take it by force. On Earth's orbital command center, Admiral West read the threat and smiled. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many wars. So they chose the hard way, she said quietly. Launch the Defiant. The massive battleship broke from its dock, its dark hull coming alive with strange lights. It looked small compared to the Council fleet, but size didn't matter anymore. They're sending just one ship. Commander Red laughed. This will be quick. His laughter died as his sensors started screaming warnings. The Defiant was doing something impossible. The space around Earth's battleship began to twist. Stars behind it bent like light through water. The Defiant's engines glowed with power that made the Council's best sensors shut down in self-defense. What are they doing? Red's second-in-command asked, fear in his voice. Before Red could answer, the Defiant vanished. Not like normal FTL ships that left light trails and energy signatures. It simply stopped existing in one place and appeared inside their fleet formation. Impossible. Red shouted. No ship can make FTL jumps that precise. The Defiant's response was to create a sphere of twisted space around itself. Council ships that touched this sphere simply folded. Not destroyed, but bent into shapes that shouldn't exist in normal space. Return fire, Red ordered. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes launched from every Council ship. The Defiant didn't dodge. Instead, the weapons fire disappeared into small holes in space that opened around the ship. Admiral West's voice came over their comm systems. That was your warning shot. Would you like to see what the Defiant can really do? To prove her point, the Defiant created a massive tear in reality between 3 Council ships. The warships were pulled in, then pushed out somewhere else, their crews unharmed but their weapons systems completely offline. This is not a battle, West continued. This is a demonstration. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your shields cannot stop us. And this ship, it's our first model, our prototype. Do you really want to see what our finished versions can do? Commander Red watched helplessly as the Defiant moved through his fleet like a knife through water. It wasn't destroying ships. It was simply turning their most advanced technology into useless metal. How? He demanded. How did you achieve this level of control over space itself? The answer came back calm and clear. We had good teachers. The ruins on Mars showed us the way. We just needed time to understand them. Red's blood went cold. The Mars ruins. The Council had studied them for thousands of years and found nothing. Yet humanity had solved their mysteries in less than a century. Commander, his science officer called out. The Defiant's drive. It's not just bending space. It's rewriting the laws of physics in its local area. Everything we know about FTL technology is primitive compared to this. Red looked at his fleet. In less than 10 minutes, Earth's single ship had disabled half his forces without firing a single traditional weapon. They hadn't come prepared for a battle. They'd walked into a physics lesson. Stand down all weapons, Red ordered. We're leaving. As his fleet retreated, they received one final message from Earth. Next time, try asking nicely. We don't respond well to threats. The Defiant returned to Earth orbit, its mission complete. In just a few minutes, it had changed the galaxy's balance of power forever. The Council had wanted to prevent humans from joining galactic society too quickly. Instead, they had forced humanity to reveal just how far ahead they truly were. And somewhere in the asteroid belt, more ships powered up their engines for the first time, each one more advanced than the last. The Council's top scientists gathered in their secret research facility on the edge of known space. Holograms showing the Defiant's capabilities filled the room. Chief Scientist White, his tentacles moving nervously over his instruments, studied the data for the 100th time. "This cannot be correct," he muttered. "They're not just using physics. They're breaking it." The room's main screen showed footage from the recent battle. The Defiant wasn't just traveling faster than light. It was changing how space itself worked. Ships bent like paper. Weapons disappeared into nowhere. Physics itself seemed to bow to the human vessel's will. "Show me the Mars data again," White ordered. A new hologram appeared, showing the ancient ruins humanity had found on Mars. The Council had discovered these ruins 10,000 years ago. Their best minds had studied them for centuries but found nothing useful. Yet humans had solved their mystery in less than 100 years. The door opened. Captain Stone of the Defiant walked in, accompanied by Council guards. He was an older man, wearing a simple black uniform without any medals or markings. "You wanted answers," Stone said, looking at the gathered scientists. "Ask your questions." White stepped forward. "How did you do it?" "The ruins. We studied them for thousands of years." Stone smiled. "You studied them like archaeologists. We studied them like engineers. You were so busy trying to understand who built them that you missed what they were trying to teach." He walked to the hologram of the Mars ruins. These weren't just buildings. They were a school, a test. The aliens who built them left behind puzzles. Each solution taught us something new about space, time, and reality itself. The scientists watched as Stone pulled out a small device. It created a miniature version of the Defiant's space-bending field right there in the room. "Your ships push through space," Stone explained. "Ours ask space to move out of our way. Your weapons fight against physics. Ours convince physics to work differently. That's what the ruins taught us. Reality is more flexible than anyone thought." White's tentacles trembled. "But the energy requirements." "That's the best part," Stone said. "We don't need much energy. We just need to know exactly where to apply it. Like finding the weak spot in a wall. Push there, and the whole thing comes down." He turned off the device. The ruins showed us those weak spots. In space, in time, in reality itself. We learned how to bend without breaking, how to change things temporarily without causing permanent damage. A younger scientist raised her hand. "But what about the weapons? The way you disabled our ships?" "We didn't disable them," Stone corrected. "We temporarily changed how physics worked around them. Your power cores couldn't function because, for a few moments, the laws they depend on simply worked differently." The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just built better ships or weapons. They had learned to rewrite the rules of the universe itself. White looked at his data again. The ruins, they weren't random. Someone left them there. "For you." Stone nodded. "We think so. The puzzles, they were designed for human minds. The way we think, the way we solve problems. It's like they knew we were coming." "Who were they?" another scientist asked. "We don't know yet," Stone admitted, "but we're learning. Each ship we build teaches us more. The Defiant was just our first attempt at using what we learned. Our newer ships," he paused. "Let's just say physics has many rules we haven't even tried bending yet." As the scientists digested this information, alarms suddenly blared across the facility. On the main screen, new data appeared showing energy readings from Earth's asteroid belt. White's eyes widened. "These readings, they're stronger than the Defiant's. Much stronger." Stone checked his watch. "Right on schedule. That would be our first production model launching. Unlike the Defiant, this one was built specifically for deep space exploration. Want to see what it can do?" The scientists gathered around their screens, both terrified and fascinated. Humanity hadn't just caught up to the galaxy's technology. They had discovered an entirely new way of looking at the universe itself. And they were just getting started. The Council's emergency session was in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other as the latest reports came in. Their attempt at economic sanctions against Earth had backfired spectacularly. "How can they ignore our trade blockade?" demanded Representative Gold, pounding his metallic fist on the table. "We control all major trade routes." First Officer Reed of the Defiant stood calmly in the center of the chamber. She was tall, with streaks of silver in her black hair, and her presence commanded attention without effort. "You can't blockade what you can't find," she said simply. She pressed a button on her wrist device. The chamber's main display lit up with new star charts. Dozens of points of light appeared in previously empty space, hidden colonies, human settlements that had existed for years, completely undetected by Council sensors. "Impossible," whispered Representative Stone. "Our scans would have detected them." Reed smiled. "Your scans look for what you expect to find. We learned something interesting from the Mars ruins. There's more than one way to exist in space." She pressed another button. The Defiant appeared on screen, currently stationed near Jupiter. As they watched, the massive ship seemed to fold in on itself, creating patterns that hurt to look at. "Watch carefully," Reed said. The Defiant disappeared. Not like normal ships entering FTL space, but like a paper being folded until it vanished. "Where did it go?" demanded Gold. "Everywhere. Nowhere. The space between spaces." Reed shrugged. "Your language doesn't have words for it. We call it folding, moving through the creases in space itself." The display showed the Defiant reappearing simultaneously at 5 different locations across the galaxy. Not copies, the same ship, existing in multiple places at once. "That's not possible." The Council's chief physicist stepped forward. "Matter cannot exist in multiple locations simultaneously." "According to whose physics?" Reed asked quietly. "The rules you know, or the rules we learned?" The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just built better ships. They had discovered ways to ignore the basic laws of reality that all Council technology was based on. "Our colonies," Reed continued, "exist in these folded spaces. Your blockade is like trying to build a wall on only one layer of paper in a 1,000-page book. We just turn the page." New data streamed across the displays. Human ships appearing and disappearing across Council space. Trade routes that didn't exist in normal space. A network of colonies and bases that had operated undetected for years. "How many?" Stone asked quietly. "Colonies? Ships? Technologies you don't know about?" Reed smiled. "Enough." Gold stood up, his metallic skin flashing angrily. "This is a threat to galactic stability." "Your technology." "Our technology," Reed interrupted, "just showed you how incomplete your understanding of the universe is. The Defiant isn't a weapon. It's a textbook. We're trying to teach you." She walked to the center of the chamber, looking each Council member in the eye. "Your defenses are based on understanding how ships move through space. We don't move through space. We move with it. Your weapons depend on physics working consistently. We can change those consistencies. Your entire civilization is built on rules we've learned to rewrite." The display showed more human ships emerging from folded space. Each one was different, more advanced than the last. The Defiant, their first prototype, now looked primitive in comparison. "This isn't a power play," Reed said softly. "This is a wake-up call. The galaxy is bigger, stranger, and more dangerous than you know. We didn't build these ships to fight you. We built them because we found something in those Mars ruins, a warning about what's coming." She pressed one final button. The display showed something massive moving in the space between galaxies, something that shouldn't exist. "So," Reed concluded, "you can keep trying to control us, fight us, or block us. Or you can let us help you prepare for what's really out there." The council chamber remained silent, every representative staring at the impossible thing between the galaxies. Humanity hadn't been building weapons of war. They had been building a defense force for the entire galaxy. And now they had to decide. Accept humanity's help or face the unknown alone. Deep within the council's ancient archives, Representative Stone stood before a wall of glowing crystals. Each one contained records going back millions of years. After First Officer Reed's revelation, he had spent days searching through the oldest records, looking for answers. Finally, he found what he feared. "Play Historical Record 7 Alpha 9, he commanded. The crystal glowed, projecting images into the air. Chief Scientist White and Ambassador Gray watched as ancient scenes played out before them. A mighty civilization that once ruled the galaxy. Ships that bent space itself. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions. Technology that could rewrite the laws of physics. They look human," White whispered. "They were human," Stone replied. "Or rather, humans are their descendants." The images showed a terrible war. The ancient civilization fought against something from outside the galaxy. In their final act, they scattered their people across thousands of worlds, hiding them among primitive species, letting them evolve naturally. Earth wasn't their only sanctuary, Stone explained, but it was the most successful. Something about Earth's isolation, its challenges, kept the old knowledge alive in human DNA, not as memories, but as instincts, ways of thinking, the ability to understand concepts that other species find impossible. Ambassador Gray stepped closer to the images, the Mars ruins, a test, a library, a key to unlock what they already carried in their genes. Stone nodded. The Ancient Ones knew their descendants would eventually find it. They designed it specifically for human minds. New images appeared, showing familiar patterns, the same patterns they had seen in the Defiant's hull, the same impossible geometries that human ships used to fold space. This is why Earth advanced so quickly, White realized. They weren't learning new things. They were remembering. Not consciously, Stone corrected. But when they saw the principles in the Mars ruins, something deep in their minds recognized the truth. Ideas that should have taken centuries to understand just clicked. The archive showed more. Plans for ships that could exist in multiple spaces at once. Weapons that could temporarily rewrite physics. Defenses against things that shouldn't exist in normal space. The Defiant, Gray said slowly, it's not advanced technology. It's rebuilt technology. Ancient technology. Improved technology, came a voice from the doorway. Captain Stone of the Defiant stood there, watching the ancient records play. We didn't just copy what we found. We understood it, improved it. The Ancient Ones could fold space. We learned to weave it. They could bend physics. We learned to reshape it completely. He walked into the room, studying the images of humanity's ancestors. But more importantly, we understood why they built these things in the first place. The final images played, showing the thing that had destroyed the ancient civilization. It moved between galaxies, massive beyond understanding, breaking reality just by existing. It's still out there, Captain Stone said quietly. Sleeping, but not for much longer. The Ancient Ones knew it would return. That's why they hid us, scattered us, let us evolve. They knew that facing this enemy would require new thinking, new solutions. Your ships, White said, they're not just for exploration or defense against the Council. They're prototypes, tests. We're trying to figure out how to fight something that exists outside normal space and time. Captain Stone's face was grim. The Ancient Ones fought it to a standstill, but couldn't defeat it. We're hoping to do better. Representative Stone turned off the archive. Why didn't you just tell us this from the beginning? Would you have believed us? Captain Stone asked. You needed to see what we could do first. Understand that what you think of as impossible is just the beginning of what's really out there. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't ignored the Council's warnings out of arrogance or defiance. They had ignored them because they were focused on something far more important. How long? Gray asked. How long until it wakes? Captain Stone looked at the final frozen image of the ancient records. Not long enough. That's why we're building faster. Learning more. The ancient ones gave us the basic knowledge. Now we have to surpass them. And quickly. The future of not just Earth, but every galaxy in reach, would depend on their success. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from every known civilization crowded the space, their attention fixed on the massive display showing Earth's newest ship emerging from folded space. Unlike the dark, threatening form of the Defiant, this vessel shone like a star. Its hull rippled with patterns of light that seemed to echo the ancient designs from the Mars ruins. They had named it Guardian, and it dwarfed every other ship ever built in Council space. Admiral West stood before the assembled representatives, her gray hair and weathered face reflecting the light from the displays. Behind her, Captain Stone and First Officer Reed flanked a hologram showing the threat from between the galaxies. "We didn't want your empire," Admiral West began. "We never did. What we want is your survival." The hologram zoomed in on the massive entity sleeping in intergalactic space. Even frozen in sleep, it twisted reality around it like a paper in a storm. "Our ancestors fought this thing," she continued. "They managed to force it into hibernation, but the cost was the collapse of their entire civilization. They knew it would return, so they seeded hundreds of worlds with their descendants, hoping that evolution would create new ways of thinking, new solutions." Representative Gold, who had once been humanity's strongest opponent, spoke up. "How can we help?" "The Guardian isn't just a ship," West explained. "It's a teaching tool. We've designed it to help other species understand what we've learned. Your scientists, your engineers, they can all learn to see space and time the way we do." The display showed the Guardian's unique design. Unlike the Defiant's weapons of bent space, this ship was built to share knowledge, to teach, to prepare. "We have 30 years, Captain Stone added. "That's how long before the entity awakens. We need every species, every mind, working together to face it. The ancient ones tried to fight it alone. We won't make that mistake." First Officer Reed stepped forward, activating another display. "We're offering to share everything we know. All of it. The physics-bending technology, the space-folding drives, the dimensional engineering. No restrictions, no conditions." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. This was unprecedented. "In return," Reed continued, "we ask for your help, your perspectives, your unique ways of thinking. The ancient ones were powerful, but they were one species with one way of looking at the universe. We need more than that to win." Representative Stone rose from his seat. "You trust us with this knowledge. After we threatened you, tried to stop you." Admiral West smiled. "Your caution was understandable. If we had found a young species with reality-breaking technology, we might have reacted the same way. But we're past that now. The real enemy isn't each other. It's what's coming." The Guardian's engines flared to life, creating a cascade of folded space around it. But instead of using these folds to travel or fight, it used them to demonstrate, to teach. The assembled representatives watched in awe as the ship showed them new ways to see reality itself. "This is just the beginning," West said. "The ancient ones left us their knowledge, but they also left us their hope. Hope that together we could find a way to defeat what they could not. Hope that multiple species, working together, could succeed where one species failed." She looked around the chamber, meeting every representative's eyes. "We ignored your warnings because we were racing against time, building ships, preparing defenses, trying to be ready. But now we're offering everything we have. Every secret, every technology, every discovery." The Guardian created one final display, a map of nearby galaxies, showing the entity's slow but inevitable path toward them. "So," West concluded, "what's it going to be? Will you help us prepare? Will you join us in learning to break physics itself, or will you wait and hope that what's coming decides to ignore you? The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Representative Stone stood, followed by Gold, then others, until every representative was on their feet. The vote was unanimous. The galaxy would face what was coming together, armed with humanity's impossible physics and the combined knowledge of 15 civilizations. The Ancient Ones had hidden humanity away as a seed of hope. Now that seed had grown into something new. A union of species ready to rewrite the laws of reality itself to ensure their survival. The entity between the galaxies slept on, unaware that its next awakening would be very different from the last.